This is the Dollemore Daily.
Hi, I'm Mike Greiner from the Democratic Activist channel, which we'll link to down below, and I'm sitting in here for Jesse Dollemore, who is moving from California to D.C. so we can better cover the political scene. In the meantime, the news never stops, and the latest is that Jeff Weaver, Senator Bernie Sanders' former presidential campaign manager, says, quote, "Will there be a progressive challenger to Joe Biden? Yes." Now, serious progressive challengers to incumbent presidents are a serious problem. I mean, just think back as to how Ted Kennedy challenging Jimmy Carter hurt his re-election prospects, and Pat Buchanan challenged George H.W. Bush, helping to put an end to his presidential career. Now, in each case, you have to ask yourself, what came first? Was it the probable defeat of the incumbent, or was it the primary challenge? In other words, what caused the ultimate defeat of the presidential candidate, and to what extent did the primary challenge contribute to that? Well, we don't need to debate that here, but the best case scenario is that it contributes at least something to it, which in the kind of close elections that we've been experiencing over the past few years, that could be a major problem. Now, why are progressives now talking about challenging Joe Biden, something that was absolutely unheard of until relatively recently? Well, it's because of Joe Manchin announcing that he opposed the Build Back Better bill. Well, this seems a little bit absurd, I've got to tell you. I mean, Joe Biden certainly does not control Joe Manchin, or Kyrsten Sinema for that matter, or really any other member of the U.S. Senate, or for that matter, the House. Frankly, Biden, working with Nancy Pelosi, have done a remarkable job of corralling Democrats to work together to try to accomplish at least some of our agenda. And to hold Joe Manchin's announcement against Biden, when really the reason he made that announcement probably is because of the fact that Biden was pushing for the Build Back Better bill to include efforts to address climate change, something that progressives support. And frankly, I think progressives are kidding ourselves if we believe that anybody will be better at trying to corral Joe Manchin over to our side than Joe Biden. In fact, I think the bigger concern should be that if we don't have somebody like Joe Biden who can at least be seen to kind of reach across the aisle, I think there's a real danger that Joe Manchin could defect over to the Republicans. And if you don't think things could get worse, just wait until Mitch McConnell is back in control of the Senate. What's more is Joe Biden in general has been pretty supportive of progressives and the progressive agenda. If anything has been a criticism coming from the right, has been this idea that, if anything, he's been too friendly to the agenda that progressives are pushing. For example, you've got both Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren, who have both enjoyed a lot of influence in the Biden administration. You have Ro Khanna, a House member and former Sanders campaign co-chair, who said, quote, "President Biden and his senior team have made a concerted effort to reach out to me since Senator Sanders' campaign ended and seek input into legislation and strategy. He wants to implement a bold, progressive vision, and he will have my enthusiastic support in 2024, so we have 8 years to do it." That's pretty high praise from someone who was active in the primary opponent of Joe Biden in the last presidential election. And you can see the impact of President Biden's commitment to progressive policies on a number of issues. Just the fact that he has been so supportive of the Build Back Better bill and has made it central to his legislative agenda is something that shows his commitment to progressive priorities. Other things that he's done that progressives really should cheer should be the coronavirus relief, which included the $250 to $300 a month dependent child tax credit that has really had a major impact on childhood poverty. His absolute unquestioning support of unions. I mean, this is a guy who feels his support for unions deep down inside, and that's something that should really cheer progressives. It's not some kind of painted-on commitment that he has to it. He has also pushed for greater regulation of the banks, resulting in the resignation of the FDIC chair appointed by Donald Trump, who had stood in the way of Democratic efforts to try to regulate the banks further. He also extended the pandemic-related moratorium on student loan payments, and also vocally called for the Senate to create some kind of exception to the filibuster that will allow the voting rights legislation to pass. Finally, his efforts to increase the aggressiveness of antitrust enforcement and to appoint more judges in his first year, and notably a more diverse group in his first year, than any other president had done in history. Now, I love the comment of Corbin Trent, who's the co-founder of the Progressive No Excuses PAC and the former communications director for AOC, who said that appointing judges is, quote, a whatever the hell inside baseball scorecard we're using. And that really bothers me because of the fact that Republicans have made appointing judges central to their agenda, and we can see the impact as a result of that. We as Democrats need to acknowledge the fact that appointing judges needs to be a priority, or we're going to see the courts continue to whittle away at our rights and take away anything that Congress is able to pass. So it makes you wonder what Corbin Trent is looking for in terms of some kind of scorecard that we should use to grade Joe Biden. And there, truthfully, he does have a point. Biden needs to get a lot better about messaging. I mean, a great example of that is the Build Back Better bill itself. The Build Back Better bill has been attacked for being too big and too broad. And truthfully, that's probably caused a problem for passing it. Ironically, when you talk about each of the individual pieces of the legislation, things like universal pre-K, child care tax credits, or the dependent care tax credit for that matter, those things are widely supported by 70 or 80% of the public. So if we can get more emphasis on the individual pieces of this legislation, as well as also delivering a message about the many things that the administration has accomplished, those things will kind of start to help turn the negativity that has really become ingrained in the media coverage of President Biden. Democrats are really at danger of being left on the outside looking in, as Republicans use their minority status to take over government and really ensure that they get to kind of control the government despite the fact that they do not represent the majority of people. As a result, winning does matter. If you're on the outside looking in, you can't be there appointing judges. I mean, if you don't believe that winning matters, just look at the Supreme Court and ask yourself, how did we get here? As Democrats, and particularly as progressive Democrats, we need to pull together to support President Biden. Yes, we do need to push him as much as we can to try to be as progressive as possible, but it appears that he's trying to do that. The odds of us electing anybody else who will be more progressive, frankly, are nil. And all we will do by challenging him is move from being at the table, making a difference on the policy, to being outside of the table, where he'll have to turn to more centrist advisors to try to get him through a primary challenge. Even if Biden does end up surviving the 2024 election with that, the ultimate impact will be a major blow against the goals that we are trying to accomplish. Well, if you agree with me or disagree with me, I'd love to see your comments down below. And if you could check out my channel, Democratic Activist, I'll link to it down below. And I'll see you in the next video. In the meantime, let's hope for continued progress. Thank you.